Blak, they all died in custody.
The death of a young local sparked impassioned.
They can't believe that no one will be charged.
In fact, incarceration is the disadvantaged and unequal position of Aboriginal people.
If I'm going to see justice before I die, they should be accountable for her death.
How many more before we go enough is enough?
Warning. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander viewers are advised that this video may contain images, voices and videos of deceased persons. There may also be words and descriptions that may be culturally sensitive and no longer used.
Demonstrators are demanding answers and accountability.
The death of George Floyd sparked a global movement, leading to protests around the world, including here in WA. What many mightn't know is 4 decades earlier, the controversial death of a faceless teen in remote Western Australia would prompt the first national conversation into Black deaths in custody.
The Aboriginals of Roebourne in Western Australia's Iron Country are burying another of their dead, John Pat.
The whole of the community was affected. I mean, for something to happen to him in the manner that he was treated, leading to his death, was very, very hard for us to accept. And it affected us.
An autopsy showed severe brain damage, consistent, it said, with him having hit his head on the ground. But the Aborigines reject this, and bitterness over the incident has brought black-white tension to the boil.
So you said before that justice wasn't served in the Pat case. Do you stand by that?
Yeah, because no one went to jail. It's like he was a child. He was only 16.
The name John Pat is infamous in this small Pilbara town of Roebourne. His story is one that is told to the generations of Black Australians. Every year, thousands of tourists will make their way through this small town where he grew up. Very few would have ever heard his name or understand the pivotal role he played in a royal commission which will have ramifications for the decades to come. Located 16 hours north of Perth, Roebourne is a sunburnt town on the edge of the Harding River. That river is the lifeblood of the community. Michelle Adams, niece of John Pat, grew up in the town and has fond memories.
Great place. Great place. I guess everybody would say that for wherever they are, wherever they grow up. But Roebourne was particularly unique. To me, that was a place of mystery. Like you could leave town and go across the river on an adventure far, far away. And I love that about my memory growing up in Roebourne, because I got to see a lot of the older tribal people who are no longer around.
Traditionally Nyalama country, the earth is rich with vast mineral deposits, iron ore, petroleum and gas. In the late 1960s, the natural resources boom was a catalyst, forcing nearby Indjabrundi people off their land. This coincided with another displacement happening at the same time.
After 100 years of working for the squatter bosses, our mothers and fathers were told there was no place for them on the station anymore, and they had to join the others in Roebourne Reserve. The government was now forcing the squatters to pay us award wages, the same rate as white workers.
Being taken off the stations meant many Aboriginal people were now displaced and unemployed, including Pansy Sambo's family.
So a lot of them did find comfort in alcohol. And that's when I've seen and noticed the changes.
Project workers, armed with the money and primed with the inclination, descend on the town and the hotel in particular. Local people say fights are more regular and often more spectacular than TV ringside. construction workers who will be sacked for fighting in the camps use Roebourne to let off their steam.
In 1967, the bad effects of mining development were doubled when the government gave full citizenship rights to every Aborigine in Australia. We call them drinking rights because for the first time in our history, everyone had the right to buy and drink grog.
It's a slow death in the village. This is poverty, unemployment and wholesale alcoholism wrapped up in a neat little package.
Local elders realised alcohol was becoming an issue and a contributing factor of Indigenous incarceration.
My uncles spent a lot of time in prison when I was growing up. Already in the 70s and the 80s, it was very common. It was just accepted, like a passive acceptance, that is the only life that you were deserving of.
Oh, there used to be fights at the big hotel. There used to be fight on the reserve. It made people, or gave them courage to fight one another, which was very sad. The younger ones were caught up in the cycle because this seemed to have become a norm for them to see alcohol and fighting.
A Victoria hotel 18 months ago employed 3 people behind the bar and struggled to sell 40 barrels of beer a week. Now it has 15 full-time bar staff and its bulk beer sales put it among the top 5 hotels in the state.
Back in the 80s, the old Vic Hotel was the centre of town, frequented by locals, miners and even travellers. It was also the centre of many fights and arrests, including that of a young John Pat, who would not live to tell the tale of what happened to him here that last night.
The hot and dusty little town of Roebourne will be remembered for one thing only. It's the place where the death of a young local sparked impassioned calls for a full-scale inquiry into black deaths in custody.
It was a very, very big, bad reaction.
A 16-year-old youth died in police custody in September 1983. They came from everywhere to the Roebourne cemetery to mourn his passing.